Session here this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would like to ask Michelle Van Lerbergy, the Torrance Council President, to lead us, please.
Everybody please stand. Right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you. We need to move on to adoption of the agenda, but I want to call on Dr. Mannon prior to that, please.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. We do have an agenda adjustment. Item 19.18, the modular that is described there should be is at Richardson Middle School, not Levy Middle School. So that is the correction to, again, item 19.18.
Okay. I believe he's probably relieved to hear that. So with that correction, I'll take a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the agenda with the correction by Dr. Mannon. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. And now I get to do something really, really fun. I love hiring people and talking about new, wonderful people in new positions. So we have a report of closed session actions. And this evening, the Board of Education in closed session voted unanimously to approve the following administrative appointments. Some of you are probably waiting with bated breath to hear this, that are effective July 1st, 2017. The first, and as I say your name, if you'll come up to the podium, and we'll give you a moment to say something once I get to talk about you for a little bit. The first is Catherine DiVincenzo. Come on forward. And Catherine will be assistant principal at Arnold Elementary School. For those of you who know her in other sort of realms, Kathy was hired on September 1st, 1999 as an elementary school teacher and served at various schools, including Towers and Riviera Elementary Schools. She was promoted to resource teacher, instructional resources, in September 2014, and later to resources teacher, professional development. In addition, some of her leadership experience includes induction program coordinator for TUSD, which included the managing of all ongoing operations and program events, induction support coach for TUSD, which included the mentoring of 19 elementary teachers, Common Core PLC lead teacher, and school site council chair. She received her Bachelor of Business Administration at Loyola Marymount University in 1995, and our Master's in Educational Administration from Concordia University, Irvine, in 2013. We'd like to congratulate you, Kathy, and welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm so honored that I was chosen and selected to do this work, and I am beyond excited to serve the staff and students at Arnold Elementary. And I just want to say thank you for having me here, and I also want to thank my family. And they're in the back.
They can stand up. Family, stand up so we can see you. Stand
I
up.
got and both of my kids are one's at Riviera. He actually graduated today, and then Sophia's at Richardson, and she'll graduate Thursday. So it's fun. I'm a parent as well, which is very fun. So thank you to my family and my best friends. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for them with all of their support and just guidance, and they're my source. So, and thanks to all of you too.
They're taking you out to a really big dinner afterwards?
Do they know they're on the hook for that?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Welcome. And our second new administrator is Lisa Nunez. Come on forward. A popular choice. Who will be principal at Magruder Middle School. Oh gosh, here comes the balloons. Okay. Lisa was hired on September 1st, 1998 as a physical education and health science teacher and served at various schools, including Casimir and Magruder Middle School. She was promoted to assistant principal at Magruder Middle School in July 2013. In addition, some of her leadership experience includes the AXA Scholarship Committee, Middle School Jumpstart Coordinator, TTA Board of Directors representing middle schools, School Site Council member, leadership team member, lead teacher, and BITSA provider. She received her Bachelor of Science in Physical Education at Eastern Illinois University in 1996 and her Master's of Physical Education Administration at Cal State University Dominguez Hills in 2004. We'd like to congratulate Lisa. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to the board and to cabinet for this opportunity, to my staff and my friends and my family who are here and with me. This is a dream come true. And not only to be appointed this position, but to be in the North End is a huge blessing. And I am so looking forward to continuing my service in this new chapter and have a great staff and amazing families that I get to work with. And thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hang on. Mr. Wormers?
Lisa,
Mr. Wormers had something to say. Ms. Nunez?
I've been learning from Lisa Nunez since right after I got elected. She was my assigned rep from the TTA, and she's been teaching me ever since, so I think we made an excellent choice. Congratulations.
Yay. And don't forget to take your
didn't
balloons.
work
And
very
Mary
well.
Beth with you, too. She gets to go home, too. Do you want your family to stand up, or do you have family here that you want to recognize? Oh, come on in, family. Come in, peek in for a minute at least, so we can see you.
Be on TV.
Oh, they don't. Their moment of fame. Thanks. Okay, so that's our second one, and we have yet one more, and that will be Yvonne Marin, the principal at Jefferson Middle School. Woo-hoo! Yvonne was hired on July 1st, 1996 as an elementary school teacher and later as a special projects teacher in the Hawthorne School District. Not too far from here. One of us might work there. She was promoted to assistant principal at Paris Middle School in Redondo Beach Unified School District in February 2012. In addition, some of Yvonne's leadership experience includes Seal of Biliteracy Committee member, district negotiations team member, district and site leadership team member, and grading task force committee member. Ooh. Yvonne received her Bachelor of Art in liberal studies with bilingual emphasis from San Diego State University in 1994. That's interesting. And her Master of Arts in Education Administration Services from Concordia University in 2012. She's currently in progress with her doctorate in educational leadership. We would like to welcome Yvonne to our district. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Madam President, board members, and cabinet. I'm really excited to serve the community that I live in. I'm a resident on the north side. My children are now grown, and they attend El Camino, and they both went through UConn and Magruder. My daughter went on to North, and we've had a wonderful experience as parents and children and as a family in Torrance, and it's going to be really nice to come home and give back to my own community. I've enjoyed my 5 years in Redondo very much. My family is from Redondo. We've been there almost 100 years, my parents and all my siblings. So that was a very special time for me to go back and serve the community that I've known for generations. But it's extra special for me to serve now my community that I live in. So I'm really excited to work with all the district staff, the site staff, and especially the families. That's my most favorite part. So I can't wait to meet the kids and all the families that live in the area and start working with them right away. So thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Great, thank you. All right, wonderful. All of that starting July 1st, just in a few short weeks. I'm sure it seems like a long way away, and it'll go by in a hurry when you look up. Okay, so next we have some recognitions of some wonderful student accomplishments. And I'm going to announce the first one, and I will meet you down at the podium. That's the National Scripps Spelling Bee semifinalist. Jennifer Lau from Cali Mayor Middle School. Do you want to tell us anything about being in spelling bee?
It was an amazing experience and beyond words. And I'm just so grateful that I was able to go and meet new people and be able to use what I've learned in that special competition. Thank you.
Great. Good job. One question. Do you remember what word you missed?
It wasn't really a word. It got out from a special test. I didn't score enough points.
Oh, it was still a written test.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Darn. Okay, but anyway, I have a certificate here for you. National Script Spelling Bee semifinalist.
Thank you.
To thank you for your wonderful work. Okay, we're going to move over here.
So a little bit about Jennifer's accomplishments. She's also joined by her parents, David and Janice Lau, as well as Principal of Cali, Mr. David Mosley. Jennifer won first place at the LA County Spelling Bee and advanced to the Scripps National Spelling Bee, where she finished as a semifinalist and 41st place. Jennifer also has a 4.0 GPA and a member of CJSF at Cali Mayor. Congratulations, Jennifer.
Okay. And then our next is a high school team. The South High School girls softball team, CIF South Section Division 5 champions. I see a lot of similarly dressed young ladies. Come on up, ladies. Did you have something you needed to add to that, Dr. Dugal?
Sure. The South High softball team is also joined by Coach Flores as well as Principal Scott
Go
McDowell.
on back here, because they're going to want to...
The South High varsity girls softball team is the first softball team in South High history to win the CIF championship. They won the Pioneer League Championship, which was the first league title for the school softball program in 17 years. They advanced to the playoffs as the #1 seed and secured the CIF championship by beating Heritage Christian 6-2. Congratulations, girls.
Okay, and just, I think there's a few folks behind me who also want pictures, so just bear with us. I will move out of the way in just a second. Thank you, Tim.
Don't you want to say anything? Girls, anybody want to say something about the experience?
Okay. How close did it go? Well, I'd like to say thank you for honoring us on our win, and it's very exciting to be the first team in school history to win CIF for softball. And yeah, your turn. Congratulations to Maddie for winning MVP. Tony?
All right, thank you.
Thank you guys for coming. Nice. I'll take it. Congratulations, you're the eighth. Yes. All right. So, can we figure out another recognition? I really like recognitions. I think that's it for that. We get to move on to staff presentations. So Y'all are welcome to stay if you want, but if you need or want to leave, this might be a good juncture.
It's finals week. Don't be foolish.
Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your
Our
hard work.
principals
and I hope
don't have
you're
to hang
better.
out
Your
either.
foot
Yeah.
looks like
Our
an
new
ankle.
principals don't have to hang out. You guys
Oh,
can
yeah,
go.
the
We won't hold
principals.
it against you.
You guys have homework too. Go ahead. Did these go through you? Julie, she didn't get this one either. Oh, she didn't get that one either? Came from this side? Oh, it doesn't matter? Okay. I do. Oh, that's true. Thank you. One more moment while they finish off. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thanks for the photos.
Now it's dinner time. We do actually have a few reports coming up from some wonderful community organizations that we will move forward with. The first of those is from the Torrance Education Foundation and the Executive Director, Susan Swinburne. And she snuck in there while we were moving people out. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening to everyone. Of course, at the risk of repeating myself, I will repeat that our South Bay Enrichment Academy summer school program will be starting very shortly in a couple of weeks. The high school first session starts on the 27th of June. It is still open for registration. And then the middle school and elementary school programs start the following week on Monday, July 3rd. Of course, we will be closed on Tuesday, July 4th, but that will extend through the month of July, and high school will extend a couple of days into the month of August. So we're excited about that, moving forward with the new programs I've been telling you about as far as managing that program this year, trying to bring everything sort of into 21st century technical management. So that's coming. A little bit of dry information that might not be of interest to most of you, but we are about to close our fiscal year, as is the district, and for the first time, we're preparing to become an audited entity at the foundation. We want to be sure that we put everything in place to ensure our future good management, and so we will be undergoing our first financial audit this coming summer, and we will report back to you after that is complete in the fall sometime, possibly the end of November. So stay tuned on that score.
Okay.
And then lastly, I'm happy to announce to those who might not already know that last month we did award $69,000 in scholarship support to 29 students who are graduating this year. It's graduation week, so I think it's appropriate to discuss that. And I should say that we could not possibly do that without the very, very generous community donors and sponsors who make gifts to the foundation to support the scholarships for students. Of course, we've had a very, very long and productive and partnering relationship with Toyota, who sadly is now leaving our community and will not be repeating their scholarships, but they've been making scholarships through the foundation for more than 2 decades, and their gift was $30,000. So we had 6 $5,000 scholarships at the behest of Toyota. Our other sponsors are Continental Development, which is very good to many, many schools in the South Bay, and Surf Management, and a raft of other sponsors who provide scholarship support for our students. So I want to be sure that everyone is aware that that funding comes into us pretty much every year, depending upon, well, of course, Toyota's leaving us, so aside from that, it comes in every year. And we are very, very happy to work with all of our sponsors and provide this scholarship support to the outstanding students who are graduating from our high schools.
Sounds good to
That's
me.
the end. Any
All right.
questions I can answer?
Questions, comments, anybody? All right, thank you for all your
Thank
hard
you.
work. Oh, did you want to mention the science? Actually, that you all are still outfitting our science labs as they're coming online at the elementary schools.
Yes, we are. We're in an ongoing effort to raise the dollars that will be required to outfit all the labs. I think we have 2 working labs in place right now, and of course, there will be 15 more coming. So that process continues, and I'm happy to speak to anybody who might have an interest in becoming a partner of the foundation in support of the science lab project.
STEM is king these days.
STEM is
Thank
king.
you.
That's exactly right.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks, Susan. Okay, and now, for her last report in front of us, the outgoing president of the Torrance Council of PTAs, Michelle Van Lerbergy. Come on forward.
Thank you all very much. Hello, President Reagan, and board, and Dr. Mannon and the cabinet. TCPTA held our final association meeting at our spring brunch. Most of you were there. It is always a great event, so I just appreciate you all coming and supporting. Several units, especially our high school PTAs, are already working, getting things ready for registration. They're already putting together their membership packets. They're getting all of that ready. Of course, our term ends June 30th, and so the new boards will all be starting on July 1st. Alicia Allen and Project Hope team are putting together, actually today, 60 boxes of food to help our homeless students supplement over the summer, which is a fantastic thing that they're doing. She also reported to me that she was there when some of our homeless students were getting their hair done and nails done and makeup done, and they were so excited. And she said of all of the things that she has done, that is one of the most satisfying things, is to see these kiddos get to go to prom and feel special. And I'm just really pleased that TCPTA and Alicia ran with this idea, and it was on her heart, and I'm just really happy that TCPTA can support her in this. And I just hope that, so there's 2 ways of looking at it. You want it to get bigger because you want to help more people, but you don't really want it to get bigger, right? So that's the struggle that we have, but we want to help kids, and that's what PTAs are all about. So I'm just really fortunate that Alicia came up with that idea on my watch, and we're able to implement it, and I'm sure Nanette will continue it and support it. Project Boss will be ramping up. Our chairperson is also, she's got, her twins are graduating, and she's in charge of the North High Grad Night. So she's not really starting it yet, but she said like the day after that she would be on top of it. So she is working really hard and starting to put together, we'll be starting to put together the backpacks for our less fortunate students full of school supplies. So we are in that process. And lastly, I would like to take this time to thank all of you for your support, for all of our PTAs and Torrance Council of PTAs. It's been wonderful being the president for the past 2 years. I will be moving on to West High, where I will have a freshman, and I'm going to be the PTA president at West High. So, you know, it's in my blood. I don't know if I've told you guys this, but both my grandmothers, I didn't know this until they passed away and we were going through their things, were honorary service award winners and PTA members. And I had no idea. So that's so we know that PTA is in my blood. I would like to introduce Nanette Nolan, who will be taking over the helm on July 1st.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'll be quick. I just want to say thank you to Michelle and the current Torrance Council, PTA's Board of Directors, and their executive board. They're some of the most extraordinary people I've ever met, and I'm so honored to work with them. I know I'm a better person and a better parent having met them. I'm humbled and really nervous and excited about having the opportunity to continue the good work that they've done. the PTA mission is to improve the lives of children and families. It's everywhere, but they leave a very big mark here on Torrance, and I'm just thrilled to be a part of that legacy. So thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to being a partner with you as well. Thanks.
Don't get away yet, Michelle. You were not able to be here at our recognitions meeting, so we did save something for you. I have a plaque here that says, presented to Michelle Van Lerbergy, with appreciation for your leadership as president of Torrance Council of PTAs from 2015 to 2017 from the school district. So you can hang this in an honored place in your hallway at home. Congratulations,
Thank you very much.
ma'am. Yeah, we'll go back there. He's ready. Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh. And here's the box, so you can carry it home without it becoming damaged in any way. Actually, the next presentation is of the non-fraternization policy update. And can I have Mrs. Deutsch introduce that while I head on back up?
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Reagans. Dr. Crumpy, at the October 24th board meeting, when I was board president, I had asked you to come up with a plan to update our non-fraternization board policies to include a strong student and adult education component. Can you please update us this evening?
Absolutely. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mrs. Deutsch.
You're welcome.
Based on your request,
Clicking the wrong screen, Eric.
Based on your request, one of the major things that we did was approve a new non-conforming board policy that ensures student safety. Basically, it prohibits adults from being alone with students, both in school and out of school. When driving in a car, an adult cannot drive a student anymore. There must be either two students with an adult in the car or two adults that are with a student. And you cannot have a closed door in any classroom or office, in a campus, with one adult, one student, in the classroom. Part of this and other further education has happened through all site administrators this year, with explicit direction to immediately communicate and implement these new policies. And in addition, the additional high school meetings, I think it's been on our high school principal agenda every month since the board request, and our meetings to discuss the internal practice protocols for all of our head coaches, which is not just sports related, but extracurricular activities, our band, our drill team, our cheer, our robotics club, walk-on auxiliary personnel, people that may be helping that are not district employees, but even on a volunteer basis, working with groups of kids. And I think very importantly, to work on an education component for our students, so they not only understand this policy, but they understand what is right and wrong and know what to do and what to look out for. In multiple settings. I think additionally, prior to this request, but part of this is the decision had already been made that all of our activities and athletic directors are now part of our administrator ongoing sexual harassment training, so they're being continuously trained in an administrative capacity as well, hoping to give them additional vehicle to also move forward and train their coaches that are under them.
So that's what we've done for this year. Next steps, starting with the 17-18 school year, number one is all of our adults will be retrained on the non-frat policy, specifically around not that just they know that what the guidelines are, but that they ensure that others follow the guidelines as well. So head coaches, making sure assistant coaches are following through about policies and procedures as well. Second, starting in August, all of our extracurricular coaches, so anyone working in a non-classroom setting, we will have a district-led or district-wide training for everyone, including our administrators, and it will be led by an outside agency that will give out specifics on what to do and the different procedures that we have. This information will then be given out to teachers as well through the admin teams. Finally, carrying on from the student meetings we had this year, we have ensured that our principals have multiple meetings with students in multiple settings regarding the non-fraternization policy, as well as what to do if they do see something that's wrong. How do you report it? What are the ways to go about it? And Mr. Wormers, one of the ideas that we used is starting in the fall, the back of the student ID cards will no longer have a bell schedule, but we do have some hotline numbers that we'll be adding, so it's a part of the big picture.
Thank you both.
I like that. One more slide.
And last slide, new considerations as we have been speaking with principals and others as well as cabinet is something that we are looking into considering is common interview questions for all of our extracurricular personnel, including questions about what to do in specific situations. So not just about their job, but ethical questions as well around what do you do if this was to happen. As well as annually, the Chief Academic Officer and I will be conducting trainings with the athletic directors and activities directors to ensure there's consistency and follow-through. Any questions?
Questions, comments, anyone?
Yeah, I guess.
Mr.
On
Stefan?
the student aspect of it, it talked about all lead passing training for all students, and you had mentioned it prior to that slide. Is there going to be a consistent year-to-year kind of policy to continue the training for students as well as for employees?
Yes, so it will continue on, as well as for the students, similar to what we're doing with our adults, is that we're working on a comprehensive or a uniform packet or packet of information for all high schools to deliver the same message. And it will be an annual thing, not just for the 17-18 school year.
So the training, it's an informational packet that comes out at the first.
I meant to say like informational, it'll be a presentation to students.
Presentation.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Mrs. Deutsch?
So, getting back to what Mr. Stefan just asked, will the students be in an assembly type or classroom? How will you be conducting these awareness trainings?
So, and that's something that we've discussed with the principals, is that we want multiple settings. So there may be assemblies, there may be small classroom instruction, there may be when new sports teams start, those teams would meet as well. So it would be done in a variety of methods so that it's not just heard one time in a large assembly, but that students are able to discuss the information they've heard, be able to ask questions if they have any clarifying questions they need to ask as well.
And these will be conducted by an independent firm, or will these be?
For the students, it'll be
Yes.
conducted by the administrators on campus.
Okay.
What we want to ensure that our administrators are visible and that they are the ones communicating the message, so that when if there is a question that arises, that they have an adult advocate on that campus that they can go to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Anyone? All right. Well, thank you for the presentation. And I appreciate the fact that you mentioned cheer, since cheer is sort of going to be a new sport coming up. And I know those coaches were interested as to how they were going to receive the information, so I'm sure they will be glad to be included. All right. So that's that for item 9.3. Moving on to presentation of the proposed 2017-2018 Local Control Accountability Plan, better known as the LCAP, fondly known as the LCAP, perhaps is the way to put it. And I have a feeling that's Dr. Crumpy.
Yes. And before I get started, I think I really need to thank Ben Egan, our Director of State and Federal Projects, for doing the majority of the work around the LCAP. I think each and every year in his position, this is year 4, he inherited this in his first year in the position, but each and every year, the state has changed parameters and the template, and each year it's expanded. And I think, as you can see on our agenda, that the formal version of the LCAP is well over 100 pages now. So an additional thank you because working with everyone in Ed Services, we've actually put together what we're calling the short version. And we think it gives even additional information in more specifics, or especially around our goals, actions, and tasks on what we're going to do next year, but it's in 21 pages. And so not only did Ben do a phenomenal job with the LCAP, he actually has created 2 versions. And so really a thank you for him on that. Giving you a little different version of the presentation that you've had in the past, as this is the 4th year that we're getting really familiar with the process and really highlighting things that are continuing and changing. One of the things that is required is that we do union consultations, and we have official LCAP advisory committee. In fact, Michelle, thank you to Michelle, is one of our parent reps on that advisory committee, and we thank her for that time. But in addition to that, we've conducted over 30 additional meetings at every middle school and high school, at 8 area elementary schools, and reached out to multiple parent groups, our English language parent group, DELMAC, a new group this year, TAP, our Torrance area parents, which is our special ed parents, as well as the Title I parent advisory committee meetings. And throwing our administrators in there who we've put to work, and they've had to come in a number of times. And so all of that is part of really trying to ensure we're getting as much information as possible as we put together this document. Our goals, there are 5. They continue from last year. When we did our data analysis, and there's been nice progress made, both the way that Torrance identified in metrics that we wanted to grow, and also based on the state new accountability criteria. So at this time, we're keeping the goals the same and moving forward with progressing basically on parent and student engagement, student achievement, implementing Common Core standards through professional development for teachers, and then the compliant issues around textbooks and highly qualified teachers and well-equipped and clean schools. We may, through the next year or 2, as we understand the new accountability and dashboard, be able, or will need to look at some of our goals as some of their focus has changed around attendance, student suspension rates, and the college and career going initiative. So, what's continuing, what are we enhancing, and what are our next steps moving forward? For continued strength, we're continuing the work around professional development with our administrators, teachers, and even an expanded version of our classified staff next year. Our administrators, starting next Monday, yes, the Monday after school gets out, we'll be starting coaching training on how to better go in and work with teachers in a coaching capacity. And our focus for a lot of our work with teachers next year is on our new teachers, and how are we going to ensure that we're giving them, catching them up, if you will, over a multi-year plan on all of the work that we've done. As you know, we've made a lot of effort to reduce the out-of-classroom time of our teachers by offering an entire pamphlet of offerings this summer. We have over 400 teachers already signed up to take us up on a training that is a lot of optional trainings, but also we tried very hard to offer anything that would be required, that they had an opportunity to take at least part of that training in the summer. So it may not totally reduce every out-of-classroom time next year, but it can reduce or cut in half a lot of those trainings. Our PLC implementation will continue in moving forward, including additional work with our leadership team and administrators. The LCAP alignment with the single plan will continue, as well as strengthening the parent engagement work that has started, especially with the new position with Nancy Gutierrez as our coordinator of parent involvement and engagement. Things that we're enhancing, we're expanding our metrics, especially some disaggregated subgroup data. For our school sites in particular, the new accountability is showing subgroups that they've never been responsible for or even had the data for before, really requiring that if you have any more than 10 students within a different group, that schools are getting that information. And so for a lot of our schools that in our prior accountability system had maybe 2 or 3 subgroups, they're now seeing 8, 9, or 10. And so that's something we're enhancing as we look at those metrics and help everybody understand and how to make best use of that data. We're very excited with the addition of support within our induction or BITSA program to include the Ed Specialist credential, which is our special ed teachers. As you may know, our special ed teachers prior, we did not have certification in the state, and we had to send them elsewhere to get trained, and so we're able to include those. We've gotten that approval, so we're very excited to expand that for our special ed teachers. We will have one additional elementary support RTI, response to intervention and instruction teacher, will then join the cast of 8 that were hired last year to support all 17 of our elementary schools. Our PBIS will also be enhanced with all cohorts moving, and also Ben Egan was a part of this too, writing a grant actually through Orange County Office of Ed on our multi-tiered systems of supports, which is helping us implement that positive behavior supports in our school. And especially in our classified staff, but a lot of enhancement around special education. As you know, there's been, added positions so that we can provide that necessary support. Not only did they start a one-day classified paraeducator training this year, they're beginning with the fall, a 2-day new paraeducator training for anyone starting in our district. Continuing the October Professional Development Day with some also additional optional trainings after school that many are attending. Finally, our next steps is to continue communication and clarity throughout the sites and the community. The emphasis with our schools, we want them to understand there's no new initiatives, we're not starting new projects. Everything we're doing is to go deeper, stronger, and better, improve what we've already been working on, and have it be for high levels of learning for all students. The next steps is the fall release of the dashboard, which will be the first official release. And also, which you will see in the July meeting, there's 4 goals within the LCAP that we have to have some local indicators. So we have indicators that we have to write and have data for that are not state driven or designated. And finally, a continued focus to utilize data to drive the decisions that we're making as we move into not getting a lot of extra money within this, especially the supplemental funding in the future. Now we have to make the best use of what we're getting.
Any questions, comments from anyone? No? Actually, I have one comment, just about general LCAP. I don't know if folks saw in the Sunday Breeze, there was an article about the headline was lots of money being spent and nobody knows how it's being spent. My husband, who should know perhaps a lot about education, he knows some, but not so much, read the article and said, look, how come you guys are spending all this money and not telling anybody how you're spending it? I said, but we are. In fact, very specifically, every school district has an LCAP. And if you want to know, just go look. So he did, and he said, you're right, it is here. Every bit of the money we're spending and the approaches that we're taking and all of the programs we're implementing are defined in the LCAP. So I didn't agree actually with a lot of what the article had to say. And actually, I believe that it was an interesting assessment and evaluation and analysis, but I think that in fact they perhaps maybe misrepresented the amount of information that is available. I'm sure that Mrs. Van Lerberge would agree with that, having read all 100 and some pages of the extent to which we go to talk about the plans that we have and the way we're spending the money. So I appreciate you guys doing that, and Ben, you putting it all together, and also the simplified version, because I do think that is a little more user-friendly for folks. So, anything else, guys? All right. Thank you very much. That's great. Next, we have the report from the District Budget Committee and presentation of the proposed 2017-2018 budget. So let's see, we should start with that up here, I guess. All right. We do have a budget committee in our district, by the way, folks. I'm just not sure if folks even know that to any extent. But our budget committee is actually comprised of 2 board members. This year it happens to be myself and Mr. Steffen, and the superintendent's cabinet that consists of Dr. Mannon, Dr. Stowe, Dr. Crumpy, Judy Chai, who is not here, Dr. Liberati, Dr. Dougal, Dr. Kim, and Mr. Mara, way down there at the end. So we all met to review the 2017-2018 budget for the school district. Judy Chai, who is the district's fiscal services officer, went over the assumptions that were used to develop the budget and the basis for our development of the budget. The district continues to use the Department of Finance revenue percentage projections for additional funding, which is important. They have their projections for funding of the local control funding formula rather than School Services of California percentages that we had used in prior years, because we find them to be closer to the actuals. Mr. Steffen, you want to add anything to that? Okay.
Overall, the financial situation has improved primarily due to the administration's effort to find ways to balance the budget, including the use, I want to really emphasize this, of previously received one-time funds that have been held. So a lot of the things that we're using to balance the budget are one-time dollars, so that will not continue. The district is deficit spending in the budget year and 2 years out for the budget year. That is primarily due to the board-approved allocation of prior one-time funds that were received from the state. The future year budget projections do not include any salary increase at this time. It was also emphasized that in the 3rd year out, the budget shows the district will have a reserve for economic uncertainties below the 3% requirement. Much of this will be explained in that, right there. So, that's all.
And having said that, Dr. Stowe.
Okay, thank you, President Reagan's members of the board. So I'll go through briefly the assumptions that were explained. Basically, with the new budget, we're looking at an increase in base funding. Remember, we get funding in two different categories: base grant and supplemental. And the base grant increase is $3.3 million district-wide. We have an increase in supplemental in $0.8 million. So for a total of 4.1 is our increase over prior year. In addition, I can see on this slide, the formatting cuts off a little bit, but there are additional one-time funds. When this was put together, we were under the assumption that we were not going to receive those one-time funds until May of 2019. That was an amount of about $3.9 million. Since that time, the governor and legislature have changed that. We will be receiving, should the governor sign the current bill, the current budget, $3.4 million, just slightly less than 3.4, so $500,000 less. But we will receive that in, again, one-time funds sometime in this fiscal year. So other assumptions that we're making, you all know about the increase in STRS and PERS. And dollar amount effect on TUSD is $2.4 million increase from the current year. We are also using one-time funds, $3.5 million. The board had held, at Dr. Mann's request, some additional one-time funds for future use, and we are putting everything that we have into balancing the budget for the third year. So that one-time, the transfer of one-time funds for $3.5 million is included here, as well as $0.8 million for BITSA out of the Educator Effectiveness Grant. If you remember last spring, we made this decision to use the Educator Effectiveness Grant for the remainder of last year plus this year to fund the induction program. And then finally, $200,000 for gate funding for the current year, or for the next year, similar to what we've had this year. In this next table, you can see that we show you the COLA and, more importantly, that gap funding percentage. And as you stated, Mr. Eggins, that we are using the Department of Finance and not school services. You can see the school services gap funding percentage is much lower at 39 and 41, and we're utilizing the DOF estimate because it is not as conservative, and it's been a little bit more accurate in the past few years. So the next slide, we show pretty much standard as past years with lottery, both restricted and unrestricted. But the big difference there is you can see that STRS and PERS rate, the increase on an annual basis over the next 3 years. And so, that's, like I said, for next year, it's a $2.4 million off the top hit out of that additional $3.3 million. We really can't use the supplemental funding to take care of that. So that really does not leave much new money for the district. Next slide is the multi-year projection. You can see that we are deficit spending. A large chunk of that, like you said, is in the one-time funds that we've utilized and held. A large amount this year was the one-time funds that was given to schools. We bought a lot of lunch tables and furniture and computers and technology, and I'm actually working with purchasing to pull a lot of that together and be able to present that to you and give you that information on what one-time dollars were spent. Next slide, you can see the beginning and ending fund balances. Again, it's just reflective of what that deficit spending looks like. And if you see the 1920 school year, we have an ending fund balance of $16.6 million, which on the following slide will leave us with a reserve for economic uncertainty. Remember, we need to have a 3% our reserve for economic uncertainty required by the state, and at the end of 1920 school year, we will be at 2.08%. Now, when we so that's $3.3 million below the required reserve. When we if the governor signs the budget and we're able to put that additional $3.4 million in there, we will end up at about $1 million above the 3% reserve in the 1920 school year. So slightly above. And just to reemphasize what Mr. Steffen said, we pretty much did everything we could and threw all the money at it, the one-time money. I know in the LCAP, they've utilized some supplemental funds to address certain things that helps out the general fund side. But really you can only spend a one-time dollar once, and we're doing just that in order to get to this number, really targeting that 3% reserve. So we've really made a concerted effort to try to get there. Now, the Education Code 42127 states that if we have reserves above the 3%, we need to say what they are, and we need to disclose that. And so we show that the minimum reserve for economic uncertainties here is $7.2 million, which is about $9 million, we have about $9 million additional, and that is a big chunk of that is those one-time funds and other things that we're doing just to balance the budget and maintain that future year reserve. And so what's next? Next Monday night, we'll ask you to adopt the budget, as well as then within 45 days of that to make revisions of the state budget.
Comments, questions, anyone?
Well, just thank you so much, and some of the, well, I think I said out of the box before, but some of the interesting ways you came about using supplemental dollars to help relieve the general fund, I thought were very unique and very interesting. So thank you for all the thinking about it and getting us to this point where we may not have a deficit in 1920, right?
If we're lucky. Anybody else?
At the SoCal Rock meeting, none of the other school districts did a projection of the third year out being negative spending. Are they just being cocky and confident, or are we being conservative?
The third year out meaning what?
Well, we're projecting third year out as being financially challenging
In 1920?
in 1920, yes. None of the other school districts I talked to there, I talked to 3 of them, and none of them are doing that. Is that just we're more accurate? Let me be real clear about my question. I've never seen Dr. Mannon's crystal ball fail him, so I want to be real clear about that. I'm curious, are we, we've never done a qualified budget before either, so all these things are creating a perfect storm of my curiosity. So is it just we're being conservative, or do we really project things are going to get a little hairy here in the next couple of years?
Well, I think the answer to that is that we have some major issues in the state, which are, Mr. Lee's talked about this before also, is CalSTRS, CalPERS, and statewide an increase in 9% per year in special education. So when you add all of those up, it takes away all of the new money. Joel Montero, who is retiring as the head of FICMAT, that's the folks who come in and help you when you go into receivership, made the comment at school services that for all of you sitting out there, meaning administrators, that if you're not read in the third year out, you're very lucky or you're lying. So I don't know if they're very lucky or they're not telling it the way it is.
I understand. I can't qualify my question enough. One of my first acts was to lay off 150 teachers when I got elected 8 years ago. So when you guys tell us that things are going to get a little tight, I completely understand. I was surprised that I didn't see El Segundo or Palos Verdes or Manhattan Beach even remotely, the board members I interacted at SoCal Rock were even remotely aware of the fact that there might be a problem in the future. So.
Palos Verdes has a parcel tax.
That's true.
True.
Does El Segundo? Okay, Palos Verdes does, so. that could be-
Manhattan gets almost a third of their budget out of their ed foundation, so. All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
We'll stare at Susan.
No pressure.
Our budget's 200 million, so that puts it, what, $75 million?
I just wanted to second what these gentlemen were saying, and I'm not sure it was clear to the public that when they're talking about CalSTRS and CalPERS, that's the pension liability that we have. And there's a lot of information online about it if you're interested, but one of the articles that I have says that our contribution rate will double in 7 years from 8% to 19.1%, and that it will consume any new monies that we would be getting from, more than any new monies we'd be getting from the local control funding formula. And that's a change that was made 4 years ago at the state level in terms of funding for school districts, that liability was placed in our pockets, literally, and became our own to deal with. So we had no forenotice it was happening, or could have planned ahead for it, perhaps. but now we're dealing with it as it comes along and making sure that we remain solvent and fiscally responsible. So, that be that as it may. It does look better than it did. And that it might, so let's keep up with that perspective. Okay, so, moving on to, public hearings. We have 2 public hearings. We just heard about the local control accountability plan and the budget, and now we need to have 2 public hearings with regards to both of those. Let's start with the public hearing on the adoption of the 2017-2018 Local Control Accountability Plan, or the LCAP. This is a duly noticed public hearing under Ed Code 42605 on the adoption of the 2017-2018 Local Control Accountability Plan. The 2017-2018 Local Control Accountability Plan will be presented to the Board of Education at a special meeting on June 26, 2017 for adoption. Any interested persons are now afforded an opportunity to be heard here and now. Anyone have anything to say? Okay. Hearing none, I close the public hearing. And we will visit that again in a few weeks. 1 week. Oh, 1 week. Oh, my gosh. Next week, so soon. Yikes. All right. And next, we have a public hearing on the adoption of the 2017-18 budget. This is a duly noticed public hearing under Education Code Section 52103 on the adoption of the 2017-2018 budget. The adoption of the 2017-2018 budget will appear on the June 26th special meeting of the Board of Education. Any interested persons are now afforded an opportunity to be heard about the budget. Anybody? That was a no, not me.
I don't want to talk about the budget, no thank you.
Okay, hearing none, I close this public hearing too, and we'll revisit that next week too. Okay, on to our next section, which is oral communications, unscheduled hearings on non-agenda items. And I do have a number of cards from people. Thanks, folks, if you need to go. The Board of Education welcomes input from the public, we really do, in order to discuss district business in an orderly manner for the privacy and safety of the speakers and to help staff respond more directly. The board policies require that public presentations to the board comply with certain procedures, including speakers to non-agenda items may address only items that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Time allotted for such presentations is limited to 3 minutes. Total time allotted for public input on non-agenda items is limited to 30 minutes, and a speaker may not relinquish his or her time to another. When addressing the board, speakers are requested to state their name, address the president from the podium, and adhere to the applicable time limits. Complaints against employees or students will normally be heard in closed session, and the district's complaint procedure should be followed before discussion with the board. The board may remove disruptive individuals and order the room cleared if necessary. Any person who willfully disturbs any public school meeting is guilty of a misdemeanor, Education Code 32210. So, as I said, I do have a number of cards. I think we're still well within the 30-minute limit, though. Can someone keep time for me?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mr. Steffen.
Okay, Mr. Steffen will do that. The first card I have here is Jess Chicas. Okay, come on forward. You've got your 3 minutes.
Hello. Thank you, Madam President, honorable members of the board. I'm here as an advocate for Ms. Counselor, Fern Elementary School Counselor Gloria Gutierrez. I want to show my appreciation to the whole staff of Fern Elementary School. My son is in 4th grade, and he has matured enormously thanks to the help of Ms. Gutierrez. I would like to request from the board that Ms. Gutierrez not be removed next year. I want to tell you that I have 2 kids, two older kids that went through the system. One is an attorney and graduated with honors from the University of Minnesota. And another one is a master in psychology. So all I can say is good things about the Unified School District. But said that, I just want to point out, and I'm watching my time, elementary school and middle school are the foundations for high school. And maturity depends on those two levels of education. And if you have a counselor on site or on campus ready to help the students with problems that they have of any kind, then the students will be very, very mature when they go to high school. And I don't know whether Ms. Gutierrez is coming back next year. All I can say is, please don't let it go. She is a very caring, objective. She's a good listener. And when there is a problem, she's right on top. But she only has 3 days a week to go to Fern Elementary School. And before I already made my request, and before I finished, I just want to recognize also the principal, Ms. Debbie Mabry. The teacher in 4th grade, Mr. Senyak, has been very good. My son scored 92, 4 points below the gate. So it is a good school, and all I'm asking is, please reconsider if Ms. Gutierrez is not coming back. That's all I have to say. I want to thank you, Madam.
Thank you.
Director,
Thanks for the kind
thank you,
words.
ma'am.
It's nice to hear praise for folks. Our next speaker is Julie Schenkel. Is Julie? Yep, there she is.
Good evening, Ms. Reagans, members of the board.
Sorry.
Your time's up, sorry. That was quick.
I'm here tonight as the AP Literature teacher from North High School, and I wanted to come to specifically thank many of you, members of the cabinet and the board, for participating in our recent mock job interviews in my class with my students. Every year, our last unit of the year is to learn how to apply for jobs, write our resumes, prepare for interviews, dress properly for interviews, conduct the interviews, and you guys are awesome and amazing. And their last thing today in their class was to write thank you cards, and so I'm delivering them to you now.
The group
Thank
I had was
you.
amazing, Julie.
Yeah, I love that experience.
It was fantastic.
I actually ran into one of the students I interviewed at his real job currently after I had interviewed him, so.
Thank you.
Pretty cool.
And so I really appreciate the continued support with this program, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks. Right, another positive.
Yes.
This is like, tell me something good tonight. That's good. Let's keep it going. No, I'm sorry. The next person is Drew Hettinger. Yep, he's here.
President Reagan's. My name is Drew Hettinger with a statement in 3 parts, of which I will give the first. I'm here tonight as a parent of 4 children in this district, as a 20-year veteran teacher at West High, and as a voting resident of the city to bring your attention to a crisis that's forming in the social studies classes at our 4 high schools. There's several other teachers here with me tonight sharing in my concern, and I'd like to ask them to stand if they're here concerned about this issue. The situation is this. In growing numbers, students are no longer taking social studies classes on the high school campuses. Here's an example. I teach U.S. history at West High. We have 487 juniors, but only 72% of them take U.S. history in a West High class. About 50 took it early in SBEA summer school, and about 85 took it online. Recently, word has spread that there's a new, free, easy, online option for social studies. So several teachers and I surveyed our students about their plans for next year. The results were alarming. We surveyed 212 students, and I could give you all the data here. And remember, these are the ones who are taking U.S. history in the classroom this year. And fully 59% of them indicated that they plan to take their senior year government class online. If this projection holds, it means that only 30% of West High seniors will take a government and economics class through West High next year. 70% would do it elsewhere, primarily online. Now, I'm not entirely opposed to online classes. They offer flexibility, which some students need. However, among my 109 students surveyed, 39 said that they wanted to take social studies online in order to have a shorter day. After that, 25 said they couldn't fit all the classes in that they want in 6 periods, and I'm not here to stop that. But then 21 said that they want online classes because they are easier or get you out of work during your senior year. And in the small sample of data that I have backs this up. Students go to these online institutions like BYU or PCH and spend as little as 12 to 50 hours, in their words, to finish a class that at West High takes 180 hours in the classroom alone. Yeah. And they come back with suspiciously good grades. And I see it all the time on transcripts that a kid is getting C's in the classroom and A's online. Frankly, these look like diploma mills, and I think we need to be careful about the classes we are endorsing. I think that graduating high school could be compared to passing a mile run test in PE. 4 laps like 4 years of high school. But what's happening is that the students have realized that the adults aren't paying attention, and that they can take a shortcut to the finish line and finish the mile without all the work and get the same diploma as everybody else. It's time for us to be the adults in the room. A Torrance Unified Diploma means something, and we are the gatekeepers of that. It's our job to ensure that the requirements are meaningful and that our reputation continues to mean something going forward.
Ooh, wow, that was perfect timing. Well done, Drew. And number 2 of 3 is Jason Belcher.
Madam President, thank you. And the board and cabinet, thank you very much as well. So while up to 70% of students are taking the graduation requirement online, when it is 70%, it's no longer an anomaly for an honor student who can't fit everything into their schedules. It's becoming the status quo. And as a school district, we have abdicated our responsibility to these children and to our city for the instruction about our history and to our society. We have subcontracted out their education to online providers, and we don't even know what those classrooms are requiring. These online programs are like a black box. We don't know what is really going on inside of them, but indications from students say it isn't very much. And we don't know as a district if it is going to follow our LCAP of highly qualified instructors. Here's why social studies matters. At a PLC training the district administrators directed me to attend, I was told the most important skills for the 21st century student and worker are the 4 C's: critical thinking, collaboration, creativity, and communication. All these are developed inside of our classrooms, but I doubt that you'll do much of them over a summer program online that they might be doing in a weekend and with their friends at Starbucks. Social studies matters because it's the district that's priding itself on curriculum of rigor, of meeting Common Core standards, but we're being hypocritical if we claim this and then turn our backs to water down work that we're accepting from an outside vendor. And how is it fair to the students who are doing the work in our high school classrooms? They see 70% of the rest of their class taking a shortcut, and they'll rightfully call a foul. Our district behavior matters to the colleges. This morning, a colleague of mine contacted someone that they know who is an admissions office, in the admissions office at UC Santa Cruz. When asked about online classes, she said that if a students are doing it to take a lighter load in their senior year, it is a red flag and will severely hurt their admissions chances. Not just UCLA, but matters to Santa Cruz as well. So our blind eye to this behavior is hurting the future prospects of our students. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lee, can you wait till the end, or you want, did you have something?
Towards the end.
Okay. Thank you very much. And number 3 is Rebecca Serta.
Hello, administrators, board. My name is Becky Serta. I've been at West High history teacher, government econ for 27 years. So we come bearing proposals. What do we propose? Number 1, commission a team to investigate the most popular online providers for Torrance students and find out what is really going on in those classrooms. Number 2, be the gatekeepers of our reputation by clarifying our graduation requirement. Let students take any online class they want, but if they want to count it towards graduation, it has to be from an approved, high-quality provider. And what do you know? If you want an online class, we offer them internally through our schools. That's not an ed code issue. You as the board have the power to set our graduation requirements, and several neighboring districts have set common sense limits on these Mickey Mouse classes. Number 3, reduce the 40 transfer units accepted from online providers, or at least institute a limit of accepting only 10 units, or 1 year, for any given subject area during a student's high school career. Understanding our society and our world matters. Students should not receive a TUSD diploma if they have never taken a social studies course in a TUSD classroom. Number 4, be the gatekeepers of our students' future by changing district policy to not allow anyone to opt out of core subjects to lighten their load or shorten their schedule. Because if they're, I'm not talking about kids wanting an online class because they're taking 4 APs and in the choir and on the baseball team. I'm talking about the kids who have 2 or 3 academic subjects in their schedule. They should be required to get permission to use the online class, and in these cases, that permission should be denied. I look forward to working with the district to continue to be the adults in the room, the gatekeepers of the Torrance Unified Education. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, I think it's Mark Pasusic, or Mr. P. Okay.
I just want to say first that my speech that I worked hard on is 5 minutes and 38 seconds. I will try to squeeze it all in, but if I don't, if you would please read, I have copies of it later on. Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak here tonight. As was said, my name is Mark Pasusic, and I'm more commonly known in the West High area as simply Mr. P. I've worked at West High as a social science teacher for the past 17 years. During that time, I've been blessed to work with a few thousand young people, and it has been one of the joys of my life. It's also been some of the hardest things I've done in my life. If I'm lucky, I will teach for about another 17 years and then move on with my life. Until then, I have every intention of remaining in the classroom because that's where the work is. The work is in the importance of engaging students in the classroom. Now, I'm here to speak about online classes as well. I do not come with answers, but I have many questions. Here are but a few. How can we be sure online classes are of good quality and students are learning to their potential, and that student special needs are met by online classes? Next question, can anyone here in this room or anywhere guarantee that a student taking an online class is actually taking an online class? In other words, how would a school district know that the class is not taken by a parent, sibling, friend, and yes, someone in China or India, because yes, such online services are available. This is an article from The Atlantic, November 4th, 2015, entitled, "Cheating in Online Classes is Now Big Business." I would highly recommend checking it out. What new skipping ahead here. So I don't know the answer to these questions. However, as someone who has worked very hard in the district for like close to the last 2 decades, I do think I deserve an answer. I think all stakeholders deserve an answer, albeit the Torrance community, taxpayers, parents, teachers, and students. And yes, students, because this is what it's all about. These are the people who it's all about. Now, if we ask students why they take online classes, and I have done this too, and Drew's done really specific surveys, the answers we typically get is it's easier, it's less time, we have schedule conflicts, and other such reasons. Never have I heard from a student, never, I take online classes because I learn more, or it is more challenging. Shouldn't that be the main answers we'd want to hear? Asking students such questions is like asking if they're going to eat their vegetables. If you give kids that choice, they won't eat their vegetables. They will skip right to the cake, won't they?
Hey, can I allow them to finish, please?
Is that all right with you?
That's fine.
Is there any objection?
Yeah, sure.
No,
Oh, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Isn't it the adults like us who should say, no, you can have your cake afterwards, but you're going to eat the vegetables. You might not like it now, but it'll be better for you throughout your life. And heck, some kids might even grow up to like their vegetables. I'm one. Raw broccoli, good stuff. Healthy, too. And yeah, some kids grow up to even like their social science courses. They take such classes and become historians, teachers, professors, geographers, lawyers. They work far and wide for the United Nations. Others are now aides for members of Congress in Washington, D.C., and more locally, aides for politicians like California Assemblyman Elmer Suchi. I know this to be the case because I keep in contact with former students who now have such careers in these fields. Now, this isn't about me, my students, nor is it about you. It's about us. It's about this community. What do we want this community to be like? These deep and philosophical and moral questions are the very questions that you, 5 board members, have the power to influence. You have influence over a philosophical question that goes back, yes, at least 2,500 years in Western civilization. This is not really about ed code or district policy. You have the power to influence educational tradition, a tradition that goes back to Socrates, the teacher, engaging his pupils, the greatest of which was Plato. And they engaged each other in person, in the public arena of thought. They did not meet online. You cannot meet online. There's something very, very magical about being together with others in your community and engaging in thought, discussion, creativity, collaboration, and so on. It is magic. I've experienced it. A magic online classes could never reproduce. Never. So in closing, as I've said from the start, I don't know the answer to these obvious, what I see as problems with the online classes are producing, yet I'm dedicated to my student learning and what is best for them. And I hope you are too. And as I look around this room, I see some damn smart people and dedicated people, and I hope we could all work together to address this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for allowing me the extra time.
Thank you. Let me say one more thing, Mr. Lee, and then we'll get to you after Dr. Dougal. Actually, this is something that we've had on our radar for most of this school year, actually, and in fact are currently involved in investigating and looking at the issue as closely as we can, and I think Dr. Dougal will bring us up to date on where we are at this point.
Thank you, President Reagans, and thank you to the teachers who shared their concerns as well as possible solutions. I do want to inform the board as well as the community that we are developing a correspondence course committee, which is specifically looking at not just online courses, but the alternative credit students use to graduate high school. So there is a board policy. We are looking at it. We have representatives that we're asking principals from each site. It'll be 1 administrator, 2 teacher leads, as well as the counselor. And so we will start meeting in the summer to, once again, look at the entire policy in regards to alternative credits towards graduation, not just online courses.
So if any of you are interested in participating, talk to your administrators and get going with that process so you can be involved. We'd love to have you. And actually, we have heard from many of you and others about the issue through email, et cetera. So thank you for contacting us. Mr. Lee.
Yeah, to kind of follow up on this, in 1973 and 4, it's probably before most people in this room were born, I was across the street, and I had a government teacher that made a difference. They named a big auditorium after him, and his name was Jim Armstrong. And I spent, I was a student who took the path of least resistance for 4 years at high school, and if there was an online option where I could have gotten out of school an hour earlier, I would have taken it. But then I would have missed one of the great people in my life who, fortunately, later in life got to be a good friend of mine and mentored me through, what's going on close to a 20-year political career, but even about life in general. And to have missed that would be huge. Then on to Mr. P. Mr. P back there had my middle son, Andy, in his class, and he was mesmerized. In fact, enough that he just got accepted to UC San Diego, so he'll be transferring there from El Camino. And his goal, and this is probably a millennial kind of thing, but we'll deal with it, is that he wants to he's going to get a degree in economics and a minor in accounting. He's going to go make $1 bazillion as a hedge fund and come back at age 40 and be a geography teacher. And so, and it's all because of Mr. P back there. And so I think to some extent we can do traffic school online. I'm pretty good at that. I can do my continuing education for my securities license online, which I know about how much thought I put into that. And my insurance and blah, 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 blah. And I think when you talk about citizenship, when you talk about, and certainly citizenship probably should be talked a lot about right now at this place, and what's going on in the country all the way down to local government, I think you miss a lot with, Max Headroom staring at you from the other side of the computer screen. Telling
That's an
you
old
about,
reference, too.
That was but I'm looking, at least some people are out there. Telling you about government or whatever it may be. And, they even miss sitting in the back of this room being bored to death because certain people send them here, but at least they can see that, how the sausage is made sometimes. So I'm very interested to see where this goes. Yeah, I understand the AP student that is just getting a 4.85 GPA and going through life. And I suspect we'll all be working for that person someday. But in the meantime, a few of us got to be politicians and citizens of our community and those kinds of things. So how do we balance that out? And that's a concern of mine only because of the people. I can name Garth Belknap, Mrs. Chalfant, Jim Armstrong, all my government teachers. I don't think I can identify my math teachers or any of my English teachers. So, and this is 43 years ago. So these were the people that made a difference in my life, certainly made a difference in my kids' life. So let's see if we can figure that out. Geography may be a little bit more important going forward than it has been in the past with, what's going on globally as well. So I just figured I'd put in my 2 cents. Thanks.
Thank you. And let's see, Mr. Stefan, you had something to add?
Well, yeah, Dr. Dugal and the members of the board have been in communication for a while now, asking questions. I'm looking at the list of questions I sent you. I was going to repeat them, but I don't need to repeat them. They kind of already repeated them, plus a few more that I didn't have on there. And I think the idea of, and it was mentioned in the LCAP, of going deeper into topics and things like that. And I think it goes, and someone here mentioned it as well. I got my degree in history, so I'm kind of one of those kind of guys, love reading biographies and all that stuff. But one thing I do want to make sure, we're going to committee on this. And sometimes committee is a good place for things to get talked about and solved, and sometimes a good place for things that go and die. We've had committees before that didn't say. So if we can get a kind of a timeline at some point, that kind of thing, where everyone's aware of how this is going to go and what we're going to do, so at the end we know when a final change in board policy, if it's needed, which it looks like it is, and things like that, and how far we're going to go. I would appreciate that. And thank you for all your well-thought-out verse. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Wormers?
I'm a geek, so I do a lot of stuff online, and I have my own business, but the reason it's successful is I actually go out and touch people on a regular basis. I actually go out and see them. So I'm a big advocate of online classes. It's 60% of our kids take an online class, and 90% have to submit an online paper, and I don't feel we're preparing our students well enough for that. So I'm a big fan of online classes. I'm not a big fan of what I'm seeing happening with some of these classes, because they are kids just looking for an easy way to get through a class. We need to do something, but I would like to see us embrace, the fact it's 2017 and Mr. Maher has built a hell of a network, and we need to do some of that, but we need to kind of balance it against what we're doing. I agree with Mr. Stefan and Mr. Lee. doing that's important, so, thank you.
Okay. Thanks again for your input. We hear you, and we're hoping to be able to bring some information forward and do some more discussion about this. I think it's going to take a bit of discussion to come to some conclusion. All right, moving on to discussion action items. Instructions to the...
They can all go home if they want.
Yeah, you're welcome to stay.
But they can go home.
We're almost to the end, but if you need to go home, do it and do your homework, it's okay. We understand. Instructions to the public. Speakers wishing to address the board on agenda topics are permitted 3 minutes per topic. Total time granted for public input shall be limited to 30 minutes per topic. Board policies require the public presentations to the board comply with the procedures that I just read, including items 2 through 4 listed in the previous reading. And our only discussion action item is approval of the Torrance Unified School District, CSEA, or California School Employees Association, Chapter 845, Collective Bargaining Agreement, and the public disclosure of said agreement.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Does anyone have anything to say about it? It's nice to have an agreement. Yeah, it is what it is. All right. All those in favor, say aye.
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 You're
Opposed?
so profound. It is what it is.
Okay. Let it be. Okay. Now we're going, breaking out into song here. All right. And we are on to the consent calendar. How shall we pursue this?
Well, you know how I will, but do I have any concurrence?
I will make a motion to approve the consent calendar minus 15.5 all the way through, how far can I go?
With the one modification that we needed.
Yes, with the modification all the way through.
To the end?
Well, I've got questions on 20.2, Mr. Rondo, and 20.6. I actually want to see Don after. I don't want to waste everybody's time, nor do I want to ask these questions in a public forum. I just got a couple quick questions for you. But I have two public questions I want to talk about. And then,
Would they alter
You
your vote?
better do it now.
sorry again?
Are they going to alter your vote on the item?
No, not at all.
Okay.
These are informational. I have some informational questions. I won't alter my vote at all.
Okay.
I just want to know what we did and why we did it. I've got no problem with the fact that it was done. I'm curious.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I
We'll let
make your
them
life hell, I know,
decide.
but
We're holding 15.5, 20.
No, just 15.5. Yeah.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we pass the entire consent calendar aside from number 15.5.
and 20.2 and 20.6.
Oh,
So
we
be
thought
it.
you were...
Yeah, no, I got two I want to ask. I got public-
beyond the
yeah.
ones that, oh, I thought
I got a
those were
whole
the ones
lit-
that you
No, I
wanted
got a whole
to...
litany of them. I got all of them I want to talk to Don about.
Oh, I was
It's not
mistaken.
going to change my vote. I got questions about 20.2 and 20.5.
20.5. I thought those were the ones you were going to talk to him
okay.
afterwards
No,
about.
I got all kinds of other ones to talk to him afterwards about.
Okay.
Bummer.
So
The future's
15.5,
uncertain, but the
20.2,
end
and
is near.
20.5. That's correct?
What happened to
20.6. 20.2
Not 20.5, 20.6.
and 20.6. Man, this has gotten
I
confusing.
had 6 and
Do we-
All right.
Sorry?
Okay, we had a motion. I
There's
second that.
motion is second for 15.5, 20.2, and 20.6.
But easier to
To
go
pass
through
all
every item
consent items
individually.
aside from
Right.
those 3 items.
Okay.
Okay,
Now we're clear, right?
yes.
Did
All
we-
right,
we
all
have
those
to
in
vote on
favor,
that part,
say
don't we? There we go, okay.
opposed?
All
right.
right. I didn't know what the form would be on this, so I'm going to make a motion to approve 15.5.
Okay,
Second?
All right.
been moved and seconded,
I-
and discussion.
This is where, it came back up, I'm going to try to go through the notes here, but it came back up for the item to allow alliances, PTAs, or groups at schools to fundraise for personnel, both classified and certificated, under certain conditions. This what came up about 7 years ago originally, 7, and then we extended it 4, and then 3. And there was reasons it came up 7 years ago, because we did major budget cuts, we reduced, or we increased class size and things like that. Well, layoffs, increased class size, and other issues prompted it, and it's from concerned parents. And the parents were requested that the board approve of fundraising concept that would allow individual schools the ability to raise dollars to hire teachers and decrease class size. The final version allowed schools to hire for intervention people, as well as classified staff for the benefit at only that school. And that, and I find that interesting because the original time fundraising for class size came up with back in the 90s with TEF, I believe. TEF raised.
We did that, well, actually, it was the entire community.
Right, well, okay, that's where TEF got started.
With me on that, that was when we were doing.
And they raised it for the entire, from the entire community, for the entire community.
We did.
That's right. So, and then they affected every child in the district.
And then we allocated by ADA.
Right.
I was
Now-
president of the chamber, I wrote a big check.
You did.
There you go. The fiscal conditions are not the same as they were 7 years ago when we
We're moving
passed this.
that
They
way.
may become the same, I don't know, but they are not now. And so the difficulty schools were going through are not the same scenario that we have now. And I'm trying to get through this. And it comes down to this. The Title I schools, which we have a few, raised $17,500. And most of those schools are in the north end and the southern and central end. The non-Title I schools raised $823,500. Now, you can see the discrepancy there. And it's, some people would argue that maybe the Title I schools didn't care as much or this kind of thing or that kind of thing. But there's a reason why you're Title I, because you're poor. And Torrance has poor people. And then being poor, as that article brought up, being poor or disadvantaged economically brings all sorts of other issues that walk into a classroom. It brings, foster children and broken families and single families and families. And kids come in very disadvantaged. And the reason for these Title I programs is to kind of bring kids up to a level playing field. And we've talked about this before. But once we allow another group that already has an advantage economically, which then gives an advantage to the students, you could see it through all the numbers, follow test scores and zip codes, you've then unleveled that playing field as much as it was before. And so we're not saying that parents can't raise this money. We're not saying, well, I'm not saying that parents can't raise it. Of course, if they come up with $823,500 over the next 3 years, my request is it does not go to personnel. It does not do that. That's the district's responsibility. That's where we have, much like those history teachers, that's where we have an effect on class. What, if I had the ability to do that, do I understand why the parents did it? Yeah, I understand why the parents did that. I probably would have done it myself. But now sitting up here, I got to look at every kid. And I can't say, hey, you guys have more dollars over there in your pocket, and these guys can't do it, but I'm just going to let you go ahead and just buy them a better education than these kids can afford. Well, it might as well be a private school or a charter school. I mean, that's what that's becoming. And I think that is inherently wrong for a board to allow that kind of segregation through finances. The problem's not there as far as class size. We have class size reduction. We're lowest we've been in years, right? Lowest we've ever been.
That is correct.
Right? There is no, I know the principal loves getting the money. I'm sure they do it. I'm sure it makes life a lot easier for them. But no one's making life easier for the kids that are coming in from, a difficult background, and we're trying to equalize them. No one's making life easier for them not because they don't want to make their life, because the parents can't afford it. All right, so I would request that the board, I'm going to cut this short, but I would request that the board rethink this policy and not extend it again. So I make a motion, well, what is the actual, where it's up for extension, right? No, I make a motion not to extend the policy about raising dollars for personnel. See what happened last time? Got really quiet. Is this dying for a lack of second?
No, second.
Okay.
Oh, I'm right. Sorry. I was looking at the item, actually, to see how the item read. I think what we're doing is just elongating the agreement or whatever it is that we have here.
You're correct.
It is, these procedures are in place through the school year and will end as of June 30th, 2017, if the board takes no further action.
Correct.
So your motion, Mr. Stefan,
It's not needed?
no, what your motion
Is
is,
to take no further action. Would that be the correct motion? Or do I need to specifically say, do not extend this?
If this is not approved by the board, it would automatically not be allowed. In other words, a yes vote extends it, a no vote would end it on June 30th of 2017.
So I then amend that motion to make a motion to say, do not approve this.
so I think you're actually correct that it's not a necessary motion because just voting no will not
Right.
extend,
Oh, very good.
That's correct.
is how I'm reading
So
it.
wipe all that stuff out.
Okay. Okay, and the reason that I would agree is that I think there are definite issues with equity and distributing resources across our district. And we are a unified school district, and we are not providing sort of a unified and consistent set of resources to all of our students in all of our schools by allowing this. On the other hand, as a parent, I would want to do it, so I can actually see both sides of the issue for certain. So,
But up here, we're not parents.
well, we're parents as well as leaders.
I am.
We are leading the
We're
district.
parents of every child.
Yes, we are, and I feel that very strongly, actually. Mr. Lee?
I know where I fit in this thing, but okay. I wholeheartedly agree with Mr. Stefan and do see the inequity in the whole thing. I think we talked about it last time at length. We probably did a better job of advertising it so that we would have people here to argue both sides of it. We do have one person in the audience who is on probably the edge of his chair. And I, if I could rewind everything back to before ANZA started one of these, which was before I was on the board. I think it was before anybody was, no, I think Mrs. Reagan was on the board. But certainly before I was on the board, I would have said no at the time. It would have never happened. It would have been done. It would have run all the money through the Ed Foundation. That's the way it would have been done, and that was a far more equitable way to do this. And then we'd have something like Manhattan Beach where a third of their budget comes from the Ed Foundation. Everything would be good and great. But that didn't happen. So we have Riviera doing what Riviera does, ANZA doing what ANZA does, the other schools doing what the other schools do. I do hear from parents from time to time that there is some peer pressure in some of these schools to donate too that I find to be a little less than great, but again, so be it. I don't know how to put the genie back in the bottle. I really don't. It's happened, it's there, it's gonna go forward. I certainly spent a fair amount of time, last time it came up, thinking, well, okay, maybe I'll be altruistic and they will go out and teach other schools how to raise money. That failed miserably, but okay. And it didn't fail probably for Riviera trying as much or ANZA trying as much as it just wasn't, they didn't know how to do it. So
Maybe it's 'cause they
I
didn't have the
I
money.
teach salespeople how to sell things, so we can't always do it. And so that's what that looked like. So while I agree 100% with Mr. Reagan's, with Mrs. Reagan's and Mr. Stefan, I don't know how to put the genie back in the bottle. So it is what it is. And it does create an inequity that I really particularly don't care for. I could go my more liberal side and tax 20% of what they made to put it everywhere else.
Well, I don't understand. why can't you put the genie back in the bottle? You just say no.
I guess I could, but I'm not. Because we've been doing it for 10 years. We've been doing 12 years. And it's
We've been
built into
doing
the
this for
culture
7
of those
years.
schools.
Well,
No.
we also found, as we discussed the last time, that there was some of this which preceded any knowledge that we had of some schools, and they were not the schools that Mr. Lee indicated had been having, unbeknownst to us, actually hiring people as librarians.
Right.
And at the elementary level and other positions.
But as far as board action, it's only been about 7 years.
It's been about 7 years, but some of
No,
those go way back.
I remember the first time we dealt with this, it was already in place in Riviera and Anza, something.
Well, they were doing fundraising, but it wasn't for personnel.
So, it is what it is. I'm not sure, to quote Dr. Mannon tonight, I don't have the genie back in the bottle. I mean, I really don't. I find it at a lot of levels a bit disconcerting, but, maybe we can take some time. I mean, I really, if we're going to deny it tonight, I think we ought to delay it, at least to let the people involved have a chance to come talk to us about it. If we're going to go forward with it, which I'm probably going to vote yes to go forward with it, then we'll see how that vote goes, and maybe nobody needs to come back. But I do maybe want to think about, and this is going to be painful for everybody involved, that maybe we ought to think about, is there some of that money raised should be shared with other schools, or something like that? I mean, is that what we want to talk about up here? I don't know.
I just wanted to add that in looking at, we did do a considerable amount of information gathering about this item. And in fact, in looking at the numbers this year in particular, the genie is going back in the bottle, a little on its own, actually a lot on its own, because the essential services that many of the schools thought were missing, we have been able to provide in the last few years. So in fact, the amount of funds being spent by those schools is much less this year than it has been previously by some schools. Some have maintained their level of spending. But I'm also troubled by the fact that some schools are not following the even sort of minimal procedures and requirements that we've sort of put on using that money. So that is bothersome to me that even given the leeway, they're not doing it in the way that we've asked them to do it. So that's difficult for me to see that happening. No, I don't think so in public here, but
You just said it. Why can't you elaborate on it?
I've talked with staff about a variety of different things, and we're trying to, again, investigate and verify and make sure and see what the
But you just
situations
said it in
actually
a
are.
public meeting. You're going to leave everybody not
I
knowing
don't have
what
to
that
add
is.
any more specifics, I don't
Okay.
think. But I just want to make sure the procedures that are in place are being applied and paid attention to. So, anyway, Mr. Wormers, you had something?
Yeah, I do. One of the very first things I got to do back in 2009 was lay off 150 teachers. And thanks to one of our principals, I got to meet every teacher we were laying off when I was visiting the school site. Got to meet them face to face. It kind of crystallized the whole process. I would dance with the devil. I believe that we've got problems coming financially, so I would dance with the devil to keep funding in our schools. And I do believe we need to have a discussion. I do believe we need to maybe delay this decision a little bit and get more people to actually come up and talk to us. I completely understand Mr. Steffen and Mrs. Reagan's point of view. I completely understand the inequities of it. But at the same time, California is so poorly funded in its education. I would take money from just about anybody to make certain that we can get the stuff we need for our schools.
Let's amend the policy.
Let's
amend the policy so that you as a school district would take money from anybody.
Yeah,
So the money goes to the district.
The It doesn't work that way.
Well, I
I'm
know
I'm
it
more
doesn't,
practical,
but-
I'm more practical and pragmatic. I watched how parents donate. They're donating not just to the school district, they're donating to their kids' classroom.
I understand that. And
I started in the Ed Foundation. I know how this works.
And I know that, I was being flippant. But that money will not leave that school.
No,
That money- we are
frankly-
not voting on whether or not they can raise money. We are voting on whether or not they can hire personnel. That $26,000 can still come into that school. There's nothing, they could get field trips, they could get computers, right? They could get supplies, they could
How
get
many
everything.
personnel are we hiring?
$826,000 worth, I don't
Didn't
know.
all of that didn't go to hiring personnel.
Over
What Mr. Steffen is talking about is for school personnel,
Those funds are.
those funds.
These
On
funds
top
are
of that,
here.
of course, there are many other funds that paid for other items as well as personnel.
That was over several years.
Correct.
That number is not in 1 year.
No, it's over, this chart goes over 3 years. So it doesn't count the previous years as well. So the money can still be raised. It just we've hired the personnel, we've hired the personnel back. The personnel is there.
Well, actually, I'm not positive you're completely accurate, Mr. Steffen, because in this procedure, it has a line that says the funds may be used for non-personnel expenditures. So I don't know.
Well, we'd have to get a breakdown.
Yeah.
But either way, they could not,
The breakdown is by personnel. It does not include all the other items that
So
we've
the
mentioned,
number-
field
so
trips.
this school in 2014 raised 40, oh yeah, so it's right here. It says what they provided. They got a science teacher and music teacher. They got a PTA science teacher, music teacher. The school, but yeah, it's all right here. Okay, librarian consultant, people. Everything here is people.
What they cannot use it for is classroom teaching.
Right, they can use it for intervention, and they can do this, things like that. But we've already done that.
And you don't want to have them have the ability to use it for intervention or librarians or,
I believe at some point we need to draw a line that says, we as a school board and we as a district, and I understand why people want to do it, and I know it's not a popular thing, say, no, you can't raise money and hire a teacher for your kid in a public school, but that's, at some point, you've got to draw a line, because pretty soon, why is it just intervention teachers? Why not? The line between intervention teachers and hiring, bringing class size down to 15. And where does, talk about a genie, where does that stop? We put that in there, but, you get enough people in here, enough political political, what's the word I'm looking for?
Pressure.
Pressure, thank you. Pretty soon, you could have a charter school there. Pretty soon you could have, teachers, their parents are interviewing teachers. At some point, that's our job. That is the district's job, to hire people, to staff classrooms, to create plans for those people to do. That's what we do. That's our job. We do that for every child. We do that for every school.
and 8 years ago, when the budgets were slashed worse than Dr. Mann and Dr. Sabler ever saw, they tried to form a charter school. This got its genesis out of the fact that we were bleeding red ink everywhere we turned around.
But we're not bleeding red ink. We weren't bleeding red ink when the problem was over.
But I asked my question, this is the first time in 8 years of doing this, we submitted a qualified budget.
That's true.
This is the first time. So I agree, we're not, this
okay.
minute, we're not reading bleeding red ink, but I'll trust Dr. Mann's crystal ball, Mark.
Okay, so it's okay that we as board members approve that some people, we had 7 teachers stand up here, 5 teachers stand up here. We had stories about how those teachers, human beings in a classroom, affected those lives. Not every kid's going to have the same opportunity that they have now, because there's going to be more. We're going to segregate this district by income. there's going to be more opportunity. And I sent my kid to summer schools, I sent him to reading, I did it on my dollar. All right? I mean, I didn't ask the district to do it, and they're not asking the district to do it either. But I think at some point, a school board represents every child and gives them the most equitable education possible. All right? And you could just see it. You could see it in this article about, about socioeconomic disadvantaged kids. And it's not that the parents didn't know how to raise money. The parents don't have the money to raise, or as much money to raise.
Well, we're kind of at a juncture. I can count to 3, so I'm willing to bet that this is a mute discussion. Or we can actually step back and take another look at this, delay the process, and see if we can get some input out of more people. But
well, you're going to get it. Well, that's where the political pressure comes in.
well, like I said, right now I can count to 3, so I'm fairly confident where this will go if we just vote on it. If you want to actually,
No, I'm not going to sit here. This is what I feel. I mean, we got to have it done by June 30th.
Correct.
Or
well, you've done this twice, okay? If you remember your
3 times
speech,
now.
well, the last time you did your speech was about a child starting his run from Hawthorne to Palos Verdes. And it was very, very, very touching. I was very impressed. I'm equally impressed tonight, but I'm not impressed to the point where I'm going to tell parents that they cannot raise money for their local school and their local
They
class.
can raise money for their local school. This is not about they can't buy everything. There are limits. They can raise money for their local schools. This is not about them not being able to raise money.
Yeah.
It's about them hiring staff. Where other schools don't have the ability to do the same.
I understand. I do.
I work in a school district, and it's 99%, 95% Title I. Every kid I've got has a story, and very few of them are generally nice. One student lost a brother in a gang thing this year and one last year. So I'm gonna, that brings in a lot of issues on a day-to-day business. Kids eat breakfast. Some kids, and the reason they're there because I feed them in the classroom because they don't get food.
I mean,
there's a total, but that school, maybe we have a Halloween thing or what we call a carnival thing. If we get $150, we're happy.
I completely understand. I do, but at the same time, I realize that I agree with Don, the genie's out of the bottle, and it's more complex. Again, if we've got to make a decision tonight, I know where the decision is going to fall, but if you want to revisit this.
I know, when I'm extending this way too long, but a politician can make a vote and stick anything back in the bottle they want. Now, they may have to deal with that later. That's a whole different issue.
I'm not worried about dealing with it later. I'm more worried about the fact that I really believe it feels like 2008 all over again.
Well, in 2019-20, a board that's sitting here can revisit that idea and see if they want to do it again.
I have a 7th grader at home. If the citizens of Torrance will have me, I'll do this until then. I'm kind of here. I'm the only one up here with kids still in school. So I'm kind of here.
All right. I believe we've talked this.
Okay, actually, I have a parliamentary issue, though. The way the item is written, we're approving the procedures. It doesn't have a timeline, it doesn't say extending it, it doesn't say anything like that, Dr. Mannon.
You are correct, because the procedures are already in place.
Right, but so if we're,
You can sunset it again.
Yeah, we did that the first
You
time.
could sunset it again.
You want to put
and
it
that's
1 year out?
That's
We
up
can
to
do
the
that.
board.
I think you should visit it in early 2021.
that Mr. Lee will be gone by then, that's why he said that. I know what that means. Smart.
And you could certainly do that.
Or we could.
Because there's no time frame in the item
There is no time frame in the item.
at all.
That's up to the board.
It says it will end on June 30th if you don't do something.
Is it possible to vote on what that's sitting there now, and then in this same session, if it's approved, to be, then come up with an extension in a second thing, but that's
make it
not
part
on
of the
that's
motion.
not-
You just make it part of the motion.
Yeah, you want to pick a date, pick a date.
Oh, I don't want it to, no, you guys pick a date. I'm not picking a date on something I don't want.
But that should be a part of the actual motion.
So I'm still confused, though, because why are we approving the procedures if they're already in place? So the policy, the procedures
Because
themselves,
they are sunset on June 30th.
but we don't have any date that we're applying the sunset to.
No, if you approve this, there is no date. It will continue
Unless we add a date
until
to it.
the board says we don't want to do it anymore.
Which we have the right to do at any time.
But we've
you
always
have-
had a time frame in
No.
the items.
Well, you
No.
could put a time frame in
We
it.
put a time frame
We
in
put
it.
a sunset on it the very first time we voted on it. I remember actually saying that, I want to sunset this so another board has to take a look at it. I didn't like it then.
And that is why a sunset date was put in. You're
Right.
absolutely correct.
Wait, you didn't like it then.
I don't, Mark. I agree with you. Again, I've said this repeatedly. I agree with what you're saying. I just know the practicalities and the challenges faced the classroom. I've got kids in school.
But going back to the question, if the board wants to put a date in, you need to make a motion to that effect.
Amend.
You need to
Amend this
amend the
motion, or
the
this
motion
item.
indicating an extension date.
Let's make this miserable for us. Let's do it every year.
I suggested that last time.
You know, that isn't fair, and I'm going to vote to continue it, okay? Pretty much said that already. But, you know, from a practical standpoint, we've got volunteers raising money, making plans, da-da-da-da. So if we're going to revisit this every year, it is just painful for everybody involved because they don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So if we're going to extend it, let's extend it. I'll take we can extend it into 2020, and I'll take my lumps again, and who knows, I may change my mind again. But I mean, if you want to extend it then extend it then. But I don't think
you're saying 3 years as
going
opposed to
through
2.
this every year, dragging every parent out every year, is just too painful.
I think it's very difficult.
Yeah, one, but all right, I see your point. So do you want 2020
Well, I have a
or-
motion on it. Someone could make a motion to amend it.
Amend
I have
your
a motion out there. How do we deal with that?
Well, the current
can-
motion
the
is
current-
to approve the procedures.
That is the current motion.
Right.
So someone needs to make a motion to amend that with an extension, if in fact that's what the board wants to do.
Okay, I can make a motion to set a sunset date of June 30th, 2020. That gives us 3 years out.
Let's do it way before June 30th. Let's do it
Right.
like February or March, looking at the next year, because it's just too much to do.
At the end of the school year.
Well, and then all of a sudden it's in effect July 1st.
All right,
It's like the world just changed in 3 days.
okay,
So
so,
if you
gonna
have to
do
make a
this-
motion to end June 30th, but revisit it for the following year, wouldn't that have to be in the
It would
motion?
expire in June 30th, but we would request staff to bring it back
Right.
in the spring to be able to do it.
Correct.
I guarantee you I will find some reason to be on a business trip. No, just teasing, just teasing. So
Okay, so
So
you have a motion,
the
Mr. Lee?
motion is
I
what?
will modify the motion for approval that this item is sunsets June 30th, 2020, and will be reviewed again in the spring of 2020.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? That we approve the procedures to sunset on June 30th of 2020 and revisited in February?
Prior to that time.
Prior to that time, the spring of 2020.
Make it mid-March. I know I have some to do.
Mid-year 2020.
no, mid-year's June, so.
No,
Mid-school year?
year.
Ah,
I think they got
Yeah,
it.
mid-school year. Okay, is that an accurate motion?
Sounded like what I said.
Everyone's heard, okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Can I make a motion to
No, I
adjourn?
did, no. I
No,
said
and
I
I'm a
oppose.
no
I
also.
oppose. It was a capital pronoun.
I'm a no too.
I'll be quick.
Okay, now, moving on to number 20.2, 2020. 20.2. Go
I'll
ahead.
make a motion to approve 20.2.
Yes,
Have a second?
sure.
Second.
It's been
Okay.
moved and seconded that we approve 2020. Mr. Wormers?
My question,
20.2, sorry.
reading this, 16.16-03, excavate, encase, and slurry backfill, City of Torrance previously replaced a section of pipe and compacted the soils, however, the soil compaction did not meet project requirements, so we had to go back and redo their work?
That's correct.
The reason I want to do this in public session is so I can actually go, why did we have to go back and redo their work? It's
They-
their pipe?
They did it, they recompacted to their satisfaction, but it didn't meet our standards. So we had to go in and redo it to meet DSA, the
Oh.
project standards.
The DSA standards? Ah. I was going to get cranky with the city, but I won't now. Okay. Thank you. Don't run too far away, the next one's coming up.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve 20.2. All those in favor?
Aye?
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. 20.6, Mr. Wormer. Oh,
Right.
no, wait, motion.
Motion to
Second.
approve 20.6?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve 20.6. Mr. Wormers.
We're calling out 3 separate pipes at 3 separate middle schools. So all 3 middle school gyms had the same exact pipes that needed to be removed and disposal of the ACM transit pipe, material rerouting irrigation line, and labor rerouting main irrigation line?
Is it at 3 separate sites?
Yeah, we actually say change orders for bid packages, new gymnasium for Casimir, Jefferson, and Richardson, and then we're calling out the exact same.
This is just Jefferson. The bid was for all 3, remember?
Correct.
This is just the Jefferson transit.
It's just at Jefferson.
Oh, okay, so that's what threw me, because I couldn't believe we had the exact same issues
No.
at all 3 middle school
Just at
gyms.
one site.
Okay, all right, sorry, thank you. And like I said, don't run away, I got all kinds of informational questions I have to ask you later.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve 20.6. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. And I think that's it. We got through consent. The board calendar is there for those of you who want to join us for graduations. We'd be thrilled to see you there, to see our kids graduate and move on to bigger and better things, where, from whatever level of school they're in, or be promoted, however it works for your student. And next, we have a report from the board's representative to the Southern California Regional Occupational Center, Mr. Wormers.
Yes, there's been a trailer bill to give SoCal Rock some money, which is a plus and a minus. We'll see what they do. They are still chewing on the whole idea of a charter school. They're still trying to come up with some way of raising money. But I think they're starting to accept some realities of the fact they can't lease their classrooms and cover their $5 million bill. So we'll see where we go. I'm actually, myself and one other board member, part of a committee on how we're going to try to improve how they make money and how they don't spend money. So I just think this is just,
Good luck.
yeah, delaying the process, delaying the ultimate end of it, but we'll see. I'm giving it my all. I'm a good college try. But
Okay, that's it. Anything else from anybody? No? No other comments? All right, then I will take a motion for adjournment. We have some memoriams.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adjourn in memory
Yeah.
memorandum.
I can read those.
Okay, then I'll make a
I'll second
motion
it.
then.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and we will adjourn in memoriam of retired paraeducator Kazuyo Baum, retired transportation supervisor Thala Roosh, and retired ASB accounting technician Sue Bendick. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thanks for sticking with us, folks.